Happy Monday, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for the AIM Women's Mortgage Network's Growth Series. This series is here for you to educate, inspire, and share your progress as we lift each other up to new levels. We have a very special show today, a show of hope and inspiration. Allow me to introduce our guest, Nicole Lynn Lewis, the founder and CEO of Generation Hope. She reaffirms the fact that we all have the ability to make a difference when we take our passion and we execute. And our topic today is why we need to look back and appreciate how far we have come, because those experiences have taught us valuable lessons that are needed to propel us forward. Nicole, thank you so much for joining us today. And let's start off with a brief overview of why you started Generation Hope.
Absolutely. Well, first off, thank you, Laura, for having me. I'm so excited to be on with you today and to be sharing a little bit about my story in Generation Hope with all of you. So I often tell people that the origins of Generation Hope are very synonymous with my own personal story. So I was a teen mom. I got pregnant my senior year of high school. At the time that I discovered my pregnancy, I had just been accepted into several different colleges. So definitely was academically strong, college bound, young person who had real clear direction that college was in my future, in my very near future. And yet I had this positive pregnancy test at the same time. And even though I had all of this stuff going for me, I heard the same message that a lot of young women hear in that situation. Your life is over. You're not going to go to college. You're not going to be successful. And I thought now more than ever, it was really critical for me to get my college degree because I was going to be a mom. And so the next year was probably one of the most difficult years of my life. I was homeless for a period of time. I was in a really tough relationship with my daughter's father. Sometimes slept in cars and in the high school parking lot, did nothing about my life said college. And yet I started at the College of William and Mary as a full-time freshman when my daughter was a little under 3 months old. And I always tell people I stepped foot on that campus and looked down at my feet and thought, these feet don't belong here. I was surrounded by so many other people who had a ton of resources and support and family support and did not have parenting responsibilities. And yet here I was. And so I thought, let me put one foot in front of the other and see where it takes me. And that's what I did. And over the next 4 years, I experienced many of the things that the young people I now get to work with through Generation Hope are experiencing. I was definitely trying to solve the impossible problems of how do you pay for diapers and wipes and pay for that textbook that is required for class? How do you keep the heat on in the winter and enough food in the fridge for both you and your child? And then emotionally it was hard because I was an anomaly at William and Mary. There were, as I said, there were not other students who were raising children on campus. And so it could be very lonely at times. But at the same time, just such a transformational experience to go to college and to be able to have that degree, be exposed to so many people and networks that I wouldn't have been exposed to otherwise. I graduated in 4 years with high honors. My daughter walked across the graduation stage with me, and just, this incredible moment to achieve something people tell you is impossible. And I moved up to the DC area and I thought, I want to work with a nonprofit that's focused on teen parents and college completion in the DC region, and none existed and very few across the country. And I thought, this is crazy. And, from my own experience and just knowing how impactful a college degree is for a young family, I knew that a Generation Hope needed to exist. And so started Generation Hope in 2010. So we're about 10 years old. And the focus was to help more teen parents in our area get their college degrees. And less than 2% of teen moms get a college degree before age 30. So it's a huge issue that not enough people are talking about. And this organization really provides those critical wraparound supports, both financial and emotional, to help our young parents get to the graduation stage.
Wow, that is an awful lot to unpack right there, right? So many things. I'm envisioning, number one, okay, you said, all right, I have a teen pregnancy, but I'm not going to change my plan. I'm going to still continue to go to college. So right there's a decision that most people would have said, okay, we're going to put that on hold. We're going to kind of pivot to another direction and then circle back to that. But you knew that that was your path and you were going to continue on that path. Now, most of us, when you think of a college experience, you're picturing them hanging out in a dorm and kind of going to parties on the weekends and getting that college experience. Now, of course, you have parenting responsibilities, and like you said, you're trying to figure out how to buy the wipes and how to keep the lights on and the heat and everything else, on top of getting high honors and graduating in 4 years, right? So all of those things, what challenges you were faced with, but yet you got through that. Now, through all of that, what we've learned is when you go through situations like that, you're building up skills of resilience that are going to get you much further in life. But yet, eventually, when you graduated, you decided, okay, now I've learned these lessons. I've learned that I need emotional support. I need to be prepared. I need to be ready to end the world, to take on the world. But yet, you didn't go in a direction of going into the corporate side or going into that side. You decided to go into the nonprofit organization to make a difference. And remember, that's how I started our discussion. A lot of us, we think, well, that's great that all these people are doing these things, but we actually all have the ability to make that difference. Now, it doesn't have to be starting a nonprofit. That's great for you. Not everyone goes that route, but we all have those abilities to make that difference. So, Nicole, let's dive into how all of us can also help. And that can be through mentoring. That could be through empowering. That can be in supporting ourselves and, of course, the generation behind us. So now that you've had this organization for 10 years, what are some of the things that you've learned that we can also absorb to be able to help all those women around us, regardless if it's with your organization, it may be teen pregnancy and going to college, but we all know there's many things. You mentioned there could be domestic violence. There could be, who knows, right? So please take us through some of the lessons you've learned and how we can grow from that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one big thing that we can all relate to is that all of us have a journey. We've all been through things in our lives. We think about where we are at this point. There were so many hurdles and so many obstacles that we had to overcome to get to where we are. And in the same way, when we think about young parents, particularly young parents in college, it is incredibly difficult as a young mother or a young father to even get into college. There are so many things financially and emotionally you have to overcome. There's so much of a stigma around being a teen parent and a lot of bias in the way that we support and provide resources to this population. And so I think all of us, as we reflect on our own journeys, really being proud of our own hurdles that we've overcome to get to where we are today, and recognizing that when we open ourselves up to help people, we really need to celebrate, who they are today, and really encourage them to reflect on how strong they had to be, to get to where they are. I often tell my students, for us, the big thing is the degree and the graduation, right? And we talk about that and our students talk about it. It's such a special day. But what I really encourage them to do is I always say to them, I'm proud of who you are right now. I'm proud of where you are right now as a young parent in college, because it took so much to get to where you are. And I think if all of us really develop that mindset, I think there's always going to be a bigger goal, a bigger thing that we need to achieve. But really thinking about how incredibly accomplished each of us are, as well as the people that we want to help and reach out to. And that could be, you might be volunteering at a domestic violence organization or helping at a soup kitchen or working with young parents and teen parents, and really helping them to see just how incredible they are right now is so important for them to get to that next step. And the same thing for each of us. And I think that openness and that willingness to celebrate people where they are, that's a value that we have at Generation Hope. Around acceptance and support, and just really being thankful for the journey that they've had to get them to this point.
I love that. And that, if you just stop and think about that right there, accept them for where they are. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a message for all of us, is that a lot of times you're correct. We're going for the next goal, or we're going for the next level, or we're going for the next achievement, whatever that achievement is, right? But accepting where all of us are today is a celebration. So for our entire group to accept them and to celebrate is wonderful. Great.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that. Okay. So I want to go into mentoring and mentee. And I know when we had our pre-call, you had said something that it still resonates with me, where you said no one wants to be mentored by a perfect person.
Correct.
No one wants it. It doesn't work that way. So can you share some of your experiences in regards to mentoring and being a mentee?
Yeah, I think a lot of us go into mentoring feeling this pressure that we have to show up as a perfect person, as someone who has all the answers. And actually, those are the people who are probably the worst mentors, because, you know, we want to be in relationship with people who are honest, who are transparent, who have been through some of the same struggles that we've been through, and really be motivated by their ability to overcome and their ability to be honest about those struggles. And that's what helps each of us get through our own struggles, right? When we think about, you know, who we look up to and who we really look to as heroes, many of those people have been honest about, you know, the struggle it took to get there. And so in the same way, I think really for mentors to be honest about their struggles, their imperfections, things they wish that they had known, things that they have been through. Another thing that we really see that's important for mentors is to be empathetic, to be, you know, very slow to judge, but quick to listen, and think about, you know, sometimes your mentee isn't always going to do things the way that you would like them to do them, but showing up for them anyway and being a listening ear and supporting them regardless of what their decision is so critical and so important. It builds that trust. That's really essential to a positive and a healthy mentoring relationship. And I think on the mentee side, just being open to meeting different people. At Generation Hope, you know, we are really proud of the fact that we attract mentors from all different walks of life. They have different backgrounds, different ethnicities. Some are stay-at-home moms, some are lawyers, some are doctors, some are working in, you know, as teachers. And I get that question a lot about, you know, who is your average mentor? And it really is all over the spectrum for us, and that's a wonderful thing. And so I think as mentees, being open to meeting people who may be very different from who we see in our everyday lives and understanding that we have a lot to learn from them is really important as well.
Yes, very, very good point. And how do we make ourselves more accessible to the generation behind us, to kind of put ourselves out there if we would like to connect? Because sometimes it's just a situation of we don't know, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think one thing is, particularly in this moment, we think about how many communities are excluded from opportunities and from career opportunities, and in particular, right now our nation is going through this racial reckoning, if you will, and there are so many people, and people of color in particular, who don't have the networks to
Right.
be able to, you know, step into that internship opportunity, they're not able to make a phone call, or their parents make a phone call and say, hey, I have, you know, my daughter's looking for her job after college. So I think one really key thing that we'd love people to think about, and we have a whole career readiness program at Generation Hope that really talks about equity, not only from a racial standpoint, but also from a parenting standpoint. Many young mothers and fathers don't get their foot in the door for those internship opportunities because their parenting responsibilities, they don't often mesh with the way that we traditionally recruit interns. So I think one big thing is really challenging the normal way that young people may come into your businesses and your organizations in terms of internships, creating more accessibility, being open. Is there flexibility in a schedule, for example, where a young parent could come and intern at your organization or business, but maybe they need a different schedule because they have to drop their child off in the morning and pick them up in the afternoon? Is there some remote work, particularly as we've seen in these times? Yeah. Remote work is certainly significant and important, and it works. And also the recruiting practices. Instead of going to the normal places where we recruit, are there different, more creative ways that we can recruit? And compensation. I can't say that enough. Women of color, it's huge to be able to have the compensation to be able to provide for your child while you're interning somewhere. So I think it's also about us being flexible and challenging the traditional norms that we've put in place.
You know, it's interesting. This weekend, I read a phenomenal article in Harvard Business Review, and it was speaking about diversity because, of course, this year it's been a very hot topic of
Yeah.
diversity. But the article was not anything to do with gender or ethnicity. It was about socioeconomic. They
Mm.
were saying that people completely forget, regardless of the ethnicity or gender, what about the fact that people that come from a low income household, what you just said, they don't have the contacts, they don't have the resources, they maybe just they don't know the process of actually getting yourself out there, and that networking capability is just not there. Now,
Yeah.
the flip side of the article was that if you actually take the time to make it comfortable and change how you bring them into your organization, they said that it was like a 40% odds of them actually working harder and
Mm.
more dedicated to your company and your mission because they are so appreciative and want to be there to advance throughout the company.
Yeah.
So exactly what you were just saying. Maybe you have to think a little outside the box, but by doing so, you are getting a team player that is going to work so hard and dedicated to your company and mission of what you're trying to accomplish. So I really commend you for you've already been putting that framework out there. You've
Yeah.
already been doing that. So thank you for that. And Nicole, I know you do a lot of readiness for the students that are part of your program. Tell us a little bit about the emotional and, of course, the career readiness that your organization is doing.
Yeah, so I often tell people we're an education focused organization, but on any given day, we're dealing with all of the ancillary challenges that come with being a young parent going to college. So you touched on some of them. I mean, affording childcare is huge. So we provide stipends for our scholars to access high quality childcare. We have an emergency fund, and that emergency fund helps our scholars with any crisis situation that may come up in their lives from, I just had a domestic violence incident with my partner. I need to get out of this house to I can't afford groceries this month. Emotionally, we have an amazing mentoring program, a very robust mentoring program, and a really wonderful team of program staff that we call Hope Coaches, and they're working with our students and their mentors to help them navigate not just college, but life, all of the different challenges that come up in life. And we also have a whole mental health program. We have a licensed counselor on our staff who can provide direct counseling to both parents and children in our program. We know that mental health is huge, not just right now in this pandemic that we've seen just how important it is, but all on an ongoing basis to make sure that young parents are able to make it to the graduation stage. So we really believe that this wraparound holistic support makes a difference, and we've seen that it does. Our scholars graduate at a rate that's slightly higher than the national rate for all students in terms of graduating within 6 years. And even for single mothers, only 8% of single mothers graduate within 6 years from college. Our scholars graduate at a rate that's nearly 8 times that. So we're really proud of this model and how it really helps to move the needle.
Absolutely. Well, that is absolutely outstanding. Now, I know one of the things that was on your to-do list of goals was to write a book.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that project.
Yeah, so my book, Pregnant Girl, comes out Mother's Day 2021, and it celebrates the work that we do every day at Generation Hope in helping young parents make it to the graduation stage. But on a bigger scale, it also talks about teen pregnancy and the intersectionality of teen pregnancy and class and race and gender, all of the things that we've kind of touched on today, and how we need to better support young families as they pursue their educational goals. And I tell the story through the story of my own journey as a young mother in college and all the things that I came up against, as well as I had the honor of including some of the stories of the students that we get to work with within our program. And so it's a labor of love and definitely a project that we're really proud of. And we're really hoping it gets people to think differently about teen parents and how we respond and support teen parents and their children.
Yeah, it is very interesting that as we're going into 2021, it's almost crazy that we're still even having this conversation in this day and age, right?
Yes.
But with what you're doing and as we're speaking of this and the support, and it's everything, right? There shouldn't be any type of stigma, right? There's always going to be situations and challenges that people have to go through, but that moment in time does not define the rest of your journey.
Absolutely.
So we need to be there to support everyone as they go through whatever those, and we know how strong and resilient people can be, especially you mastered it. You know, there's a wraparound component, almost like a hug, right?
Yeah.
We're giving a hug around people, and you can pretty much get through anything when you have that support system. And
Absolutely.
certainly, you know, AIM and the Women's Mortgage Network has certainly even seen this year. We've seen that during this craziness of everything we've gone through this year, and our industry, the mortgage industry, has been the busiest and most growth and most families we've ever brought home in this year. But that also was a challenge, right?
Yeah.
There was mental health, there was physical, there was emotional, there was everything happened. But having a support system in place allows you to grow through that. That's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. So, Nicole, how can we help you? How can we support you? How can we learn more? Because I have to tell you, you know, you and I spoke previously, and I know there's a considerable amount of women in the Women's Mortgage Network that we actually have stories of, whether it was ourselves or whether it was other people that we knew that were in a situation of young women being pregnant and being teen moms. Mm-hmm. So we want to know, how can we support your organization and learn more to be able to help you?
Yeah, absolutely. And we'd love to have folks get involved. First stop is our website, supportgenerationhope.org, and there you'll find volunteer opportunities. We have opportunities for those of you who are in the DC metro region, DC, Maryland, and Virginia, for you to mentor with us. Right now, we're looking for mentors for our class that will start with us in July of 21. We have opportunities for you to come in. We provide childcare at all of our events. So if you're in the DC region, come in and help watch our little ones. We have a whole Hope Corps that helps with childcare, but we also have virtual opportunities. If you're interested in tutoring, you can tutor students from anywhere in the country and be able to help them with a course that they may be struggling with. We also have career readiness programming, as I mentioned, and we do have virtual opportunities through our career readiness program with mock interviews and resume reviews and things like that. So certainly there are virtual and in-person opportunities depending on where you are. And the last thing I'll say is it's holiday time, and this has been a really difficult year for our scholars. They are among the hardest hit by COVID-19. We have a whole holiday campaign where we're raising funds to make sure that we can help their families weather this storm. And so any gift of any amount will help right now as we're trying to hit our goal over the course of the next week or two.
Absolutely. Well, you are doing amazing work. Thank you for making, again, as I started, you saw something. It wasn't that you just personally went through it. You got your degree and you said, I'm going to make a difference. And you are a true inspiration. And we thank you for everything that you've done and continue to do. And thank you for sharing your story with all of us. And best of luck with Generation Hope. Okay, everyone, wishing everyone a very Merry Christmas. We will see you next Monday, where we actually will have our one and only Katie Sweeney with us as we come to discuss our business plans for success in 2021 and how to play the long game and reflecting on 2020. Thanks so much for joining us, Nicole, and Merry Christmas.
Thanks so much.